Welcome to Infection Control and the Environment. Germs, including bacteria, viruses, fungi and parasites, exist naturally in the environment, including in the bodies of people. However, not all germs cause infections. The ability of a microorganism or a harmful germ to cause infection is dependent on three things: its pathogenicity, that is, its ability to produce disease; its infectious dose, that is, the number of microorganisms required to cause the illness; and the person, or the susceptibility of the host. There are two factors that increase a person's risk of serious illness or even death from an infection, and they are age and whether you have an existing medical condition. Elderly people do not have strong immune systems and their body cannot fight infections as well as younger people. The very young can also be at risk because their immune systems are not yet fully developed. People with a pre-existing medical condition or another illness often have weak immune systems. The potential for a contaminated surface or a contaminated high touch point to contribute to transmission or the spread of the harmful germs depends on the following factors: the ability of harmful germs to remain active for long periods of time on a surface; the frequency which contaminated surfaces are touched by people; whether or not the levels of contamination are high enough to result spread from one surface to another and from one surface to a person; and whether the pathogen is resistant to disinfectants. Some are easy to kill with common disinfectants, while others are more difficult to kill and may require specialized disinfectants. The new coronavirus, COVID-19, is thought to spread mostly through person-to-person contact within a 1.8 metre radius. People with COVID-19 spread viral particles through coughing and sneezing. The particles can land in the noses or mouths of those nearby. It appears possible to catch the coronavirus by touching a surface where the virus has recently landed and then touching one's mouth, nose or eyes. Some coronaviruses can live on surfaces for days, but not much is known about the new coronavirus's ability to survive on surfaces. Fortunately, ethanol, hydrogen peroxide or bleach-based cleaners are effective at killing the coronaviruses that do survive on surfaces. Warning: most sanitizers used in kitchens are not effective in killing viruses such as influenza, of which coronavirus is similar. You should use a disinfectant which is medically proven to kill the influenza virus. Consult with your chemical supplier for more information. The chain of infection are the steps that occur for an infection to spread from one person to another. Breaking any link in this process can stop the spread of infection. Firstly, we must understand the type of infection. Is it bacteria or virus? Germs will spread in different ways and require different procedures and disinfectants. The first step is the person, or the reservoir or source. Humans are the major reservoir for many infections. Remember, germs live in the air, water, food, air conditioning, or on surfaces. In the picture on the screen, the gastrogerm lives in the person's intestinal tract, in their stomach. Step 2, a way out. You need to understand how the germs leave the person in step 1. It could be by aerosol, that is coughing or sneezing, feces, blood or mucus in contaminated water. In the picture on the screen, the gastrogerm is transmitted into or onto the toilet fixtures and fittings. Step 3 is a method of travel or transmission. The germ is transmitted or passed from person to person by respiratory droplets, coughing or sneezing, feces, blood or mucus, or in contaminated water. It can also be transmitted on the hands of a cleaner or via an air conditioning system. In the example on screen, the gastrogerm is transmitted onto toilet fixtures and fittings and then onto the hands of other people using those same toilet fixtures and fittings. Cleaning staff can also spread the gastrogerm if they don't follow hygiene or infection control procedures, which include regularly changing and laundering cleaning cloths and mops. The human hand transports the germs to subsequent persons who use the sink. Step 5 is a way into another person or a portal or an entry. The germ enters another person by inhalation, which is from breathing drops from someone coughing or sneezing, a break in the skin or mucous membrane, an insect bite, or contaminated food. In the picture on screen, the gastrogerm enters the body most likely through the mouth. Once the harmful germ enters another person, the transmission cycle begins again and more people become infected. A person can be a reservoir or a source of an infection. Germs can spread through the air as small droplets or as tiny aerosol particles, contact with feces and then with the mouth, contact with the skin or mucous membranes, which are the thin lining of many parts of your body, such as the nose or the mouth, through blood or other body fluids, for example, urine, saliva, or breast milk. Diseases need a way out. They need a way to move on to someone else, a way of transmission. That can be directly from person to person or indirectly from an infected person to the environment, for example, a toilet fixture or a doorknob, and then to another person who uses the same doorknob. An infection needs a susceptible person or a host. A susceptible or non-immune person is one who has little resistance against a particular organism and who, if exposed to this organism, is likely to contract the disease or the infection. The very young and the very old are usually more susceptible to diseases and infections than older children and young adults. In addition, certain diseases have a natural affinity for persons in certain age groups. For example, the new coronavirus COVID-19, measles, chickenpox, mumps, and other diseases normally associated with childhood and adolescence. Persons who are in a state of malnutrition, suffering from extreme fatigue or exposure to the elements, or suffering from an imbalance in the normal bodily functions have weakened resistance to the invasion of harmful germs. An immunity plays a part, the natural immunity acquired by an individual by virtue of having been infected by or exposed to an infectious germ and having developed antibodies against the agent reduces the likelihood of further or repeated infection. Similarly, someone who has been immunized against a disease, for example, flu injections, will be similarly protected. Infectious germs or diseases are transmitted or spread through a few main ways. These are contact, droplet, airborne, common vehicle, or vector-borne. We'll have a look at each of those individually. Contact transmission is the most important and frequent means of infection transmission and can be divided into two subgroups: direct contact transmission and indirect contact transmission. Direct contact transmission occurs when infectious germs are transferred from one person to another by touching and involves transfer of the germs from an infected or colonized person directly to a susceptible host. Indirect contact transmission involves transfer of the infection via contact with a contaminated object, such as a high contact surface, a doorknob. Infectious germs can also be carried on the hands of cleaning workers through contact with other people and their surroundings. This is sometimes referred to as community-based transmission. Droplet transmission occurs when droplets containing infectious germs come in contact with the eyes, nose, or mouth of a susceptible person. Droplets are generated during coughing, sneezing, and talking. Droplet transmission requires a person to be in close proximity, usually within a distance of 1 meter or less. Examples of infectious germs transmitted via droplets include the flu, the coronavirus COVID-19, and whooping cough. Airborne transmission occurs by the spreading in the air of tiny droplet nuclei and dust particles containing the infectious agent over a distance greater than 1 metre. Aerosols containing infectious agents can be dispersed over long distances by air currents and inhaled by susceptible individuals who have not had any direct contact with the infectious person. Examples of infectious diseases that can be transported via the airborne route include measles, chickenpox, and tuberculosis. Common vehicle transmission occurs when the same infectious agent or disease is transmitted to a number of people by a common contaminated source: food, water, drugs, or blood. Vector-borne transmission occurs when an animal, usually an insect, transmits a germ or a disease to a human host, for example, mosquitoes to humans with malaria.